Alright, what's good YouTube? Hello everyone, I'm sure that you probably come from Valorant Hub, most of you. This is Zaki. This is Zaki number 2 at least, my other channel, or one of my other channels. In this video we're going to be looking at how the devs design Valorant, or the agents in Valorant, with the dev Morello, Riot Morello Scott. Once I react to and analyze this video, then I'm going to actually make a full video for Valorant Hub going over this and potentially a few other things. The patch notes came out, etc. today, but in this video I'm purely just going to analyze and react to what Morello is saying, and then I'll do more analysis in a different format on Valorant Hub. So you probably come from that Valorant Hub video as it is. I know this will be the first time that some of you will have seen my face. I'm actually around the internet quite a bit, so you'll see me around here and there, but regardless, let's jump into it.
Hey everyone, I'm Ryan Scott, character design lead for Valorant. With the launch of our newest agent, Killjoy, I kind of wanted to sit down and go over the hows and whys of character design and what adding a new agent to a game like Valorant looks like and what we're trying to achieve in terms of gameplay. There might be this misconception of some perfect idea as the formula for a winning agent here, but we really think, and through our experience, it's about focus, goals, and a mindset that we like to think of as extreme intentionality. That is really understanding what we're trying to make and what it looks like before we even sit down and try to make it. I'm going to use a couple of our examples of our more recent releases, namely Killjoy and Reyna, just to clarify some of the points I want to make, and they're pretty fresh on our minds, so I think it'll help.
Sure. Also, before we get into I wanted Morello to introduce himself properly without me interrupting him. Also, bear in mind that if you like what you see here in terms of what Morello is saying, if you want to hear more from the devs, Morello does actually stream on Twitch. I'll be putting a link in the description to his Twitch stream. I actually cover quite a lot of what he says. He talks a lot about Valorant and what's upcoming in his Twitch streams, and I actually cover that quite a lot on Valorant Hub, as some of you already know.
The first thing we like to do is try to define the target player of whatever it is we're trying to make. That is, who should want to play this and why? Reyna was an example of a really clear player type, someone who wants to get high frags, values combat, killing, and dueling over all else, and kind of is making a commitment to the team that says, I will top frag to have value. What if we had a character for entry fraggers that wasn't a death sentence against coordinated teams or people who are actually playing well?
So I'm going to be pausing this video here and there. I saw screenshots of this gameplay on Twitter yesterday. I'm going to look at all of it later on, but I saw some screenshots that did not look like maps that we've seen before. I'll go into that later, but I'm wondering if we're seeing new maps or sort of seeing old maps or whatever. I don't know. We'll see.
After we kind of discovered this aspect of who should be playing it, we really want to start on the paper kit at this point. We have a little bit of a target, and this is where we get into the second stage of how we're going to make this game design come to life. Before this, we usually don't have an individual.
This was the other screenshot I saw.
That target, that area we want to hit. This starts our ability of turning that target into gameplay. And this is where some of the things that are not just about the player experience come online.
Of course, this is Haven.
Roster impact. The roster impact is really about when we add this character, not only why is it fun to play for the person we want it for, but what's it actually do? Our characters need to do something.
Of course.
When they are something that adds new opportunities, new challenges to fight against, new team comp opportunities, right? That is what we kind of call this roster impact. And we think it's really important. It's not enough just to be a piece of cool new content or fun for the target player. We think the player experience does matter, but the health of the competitive ecosystem matters more in our mind.
That's really interesting.
Killjoy as an example. We wanted to contrast her with other Sentinels, Sage and Cypher namely. Sage is awesome at stuffing rushes and preventing 5-mans from barreling down the lane and just taking over the site. She buys a lot of time, runs the clock down. She has a really clear and crisp identity in that.
And Morello has spoken about this before. I've probably said this about 3,000 times on Valorant Hub, but if you haven't seen me say about it at all or whatever, Sage has been named as Morello. Now, again, remember that Morello is the lead character designer on Valorant, so of course, he knows what's going on when it comes to the project, especially when it comes to agents and stuff like that, and balance and that. Sage is meant to be the premier staller, so at some point, I would imagine within the next year, because this is going to be a decades-long play with Valorant, at some point we're going to see another healer that doesn't just heal themselves, like, say, Reyna or Phoenix, but is a genuine healer among anything else, whereas Sage is meant to be the premier staller, which does make sense in terms of course, the Ice Wall and the Ice Orbs, too, that slow people down and stuff, so...
Cypher, on the other hand, is really about wide map control, defensive reconnaissance, and basically putting up stuff so you don't have to put people in those areas to defend them. Killjoy, to contrast with that, is about hunkering down, fortifying, and creating risk within a zone. And that risk, if not managed correctly, turning into kills for Killjoy and or her team. This, we think, is a lot different in how you'll use this kind of character, even though it's a Sentinel. Setting up a turret or a nanoswarm on its own without being around to capitalize on them doesn't really do a whole hell of a lot. Dealing with two threats at once is the way that Killjoy really accomplishes this defend and convert kind of pattern that we wanted to see out of her. One of the other things we ask is what kind of other tactical tools should the agent have alongside their identity? You know, in a game like this, we need a lot of things like vision blocking, a lot of things like breaking utility to kind of round out characters. You need a lot of this stuff on the team, and if only one or two characters has it, they're going to be must-picks every game. Reyna has some of this in her Lear ability. Even though she is about these top frags, she is about popping off and resetting. The Lear ability gives her some breaking utility that for her or her team, she can still have some angle value within the game and make sure that she isn't so reliant on these other non-tactical angle style tools that she might not ever be used at all. Everything I said, though, is still just a thesis. So we have to prototype and test and answer if the kind of player we think likes this agent actually likes this agent. It's okay if players who don't like this agent are people who aren't in the target audience, you know?
Sure.
People who
Different
really
play
like Sage for
styles.
her defensive ability or her support capabilities probably aren't super thrilled about Reyna. They're very different audiences, and that's okay. We think that's sometimes even means it's...
I totally agree with that massively. It's all about your play style, and that's actually one thing that's so great about Valorant and other games where you have role-based characters, heroes, champions, agents, whatever you want to call them. Every player has their own style. This is obviously such a team game, that different agents with different roles are really good to see, actually, because personally I really like Sage in the healing capabilities and in the stalling capabilities, but I know that the Reyna on our team is most likely, hopefully at least, the role for them is to really frag out, and if I can support them in doing that, then I'm really happy to do that.
being successful. Killjoy is a classic pitch. She's for people who want to defend and be there and defend herself and her zone with her tools. She doesn't want to just stall attackers. She wants to kill them. She wants to make a plan. She wants to have people walking on eggshells to not make a mistake. And she wants to set that whole thing up. The pitch here is really classic. We see it in a lot of different types of games. The challenge was translating it into the tactical loop for us. Reyna, on the other hand, tries to fill the high frags and entry play style by ensuring every single fight is even. You can't trade her. She'll get away with a dismiss. You can't wear her down over multiple fights. She'll heal the full each time. You need to beat her straight up on her terms, and that's the fantasy that a player who says, I'm going to go out there and top frag really wants to see. And then those provide new challenges also for the enemy players to deal with. Through this stage of prototyping, our characters usually evolve a ton, and what we ship is almost never what we started with. I think that's important that it isn't. You're never right the first time, really.
Wow, that's what Killjoy used to look like, huh?
Important that
that's crazy.
You're never right the first time, really.
That's mad.
One of the things we really think about when it comes to terms of game balance is a control panel. This is sort of shorthand for the tuning levers that would be available if, and if I'm honest, when, stuff is either overtuned or underperforming. This ensures that if character becomes OP or butt tier in some way, you can adjust without having to change the entire identity of the character to resolve it. Changing a character identity sucks, and is something we want to use only as a last resort if all of our tuning levers work. So we want to make sure we spend a lot of time on the beginning of the character's life cycle and go, how would we tune this thing if our assumptions, and again, when our assumptions are probably wrong about how balanced this is. In the end, it's about a big picture approach. Balance is temporary and metas come and go. Balanceability is permanent. Reyna has a really good example of this because we've built a bunch of tuning levers in, both generally, but specifically for her. One of her risks is to be too binary by needing kills to activate two of her abilities. This is where Lear really comes into play for her. Lear is a reliable baseline ability that has a lot of value, and it's stronger than a lot of abilities that are like it. And that lets her anchor that value into an ability that might be a little stronger on average, but since it's anchoring out the rest of the kit, we consider the whole kit as the balance point, not each.
So what Moreno is saying here is actually very consistent, from what I understand, to what he was saying before Reyna was even released. Reina was, as Morello said, feast or famine. That was his tweet. That was something that stuck with me, or stuck with me. Is Reina is feast or famine. So the fact that her kit relies on frags essentially, and the Lear is to help her essentially enter into that process of being able to use the rest of her abilities like healing up and stuff. It does match up with what Morello was saying in his tweet. Of course, my question to you there is, what do you think of what do you think of Reina? The thing is, I'm not going to be cutting out anything out of this. On Valorant Hub, I cut stuff and I edit stuff to the nth degree, but on this, it's pretty much raw and authentic. So
Individual ability by ability.
bear in mind that's because that's a personal channel. This is my personal channel, or one of my personal channels, and Valorant Hub obviously isn't a personal channel. Building for the future.
Remember, we're looking to shake up Valorant with new possibilities in ways that fit the tactical loop of the game. What we introduce is going to be a bit disruptive. The learning curve of a new agent means that it matters. It's meaningful. It's going to add something to the game. And we think that's a lot better, that we might have a bit of a learning curve, or it might be frustrating to learn how to play against, than it is that you go, why did we even add this thing at all? Why does this thing even matter? We want to set our own.
I love how we talked about that over Ray's gameplay, where she's using the showstopper and everything else in her abilities
within our roster and our game. Ones that'll likely be spicy.
And sorry to keep pausing it. My question to you on that one is, what do you think of Ray's and her showstopper? And do you think showstopper isn't an issue? Do you think her other abilities are an issue? As some of you will know, I don't like showstopper.
Or feel maybe really inappropriate inside of another tactical shooter. The tactical loop is our foundation, but it is the start of our journey, not the end. Things like dashing reactively, healing after a fight, even classic stuff like blocking vision, are things that provide exceptions to the tactical loop, the things that provide value. We use these things in sparse, limited doses or with strong constraints on them to make sure that when you can do them, it's not just about being able to do something cool. It's about allowing new strategies, new opportunities, and new possibilities for the game. We hope to be doing this for a really long time, and we're excited to be doing it together alongside of all you, and we'll be listening and adjusting as we go forward. Today is just the start, not even close to the end, and I hope to see you all the way there. Thanks.
Okay, so I think that's pretty much all of it. I mean, I'm not exactly surprised by everything he said, or anything he said, because this is stuff that he's sort of spoken about in streams over the past however long, since Valorant released, and he's been doing a great job. Honestly, Morello, if you're watching this, I don't know if you are, but you're doing a great job, really, at communicating. I don't see it being done at this level of the game really ever, apart from on Valorant right now. So it's really refreshing to see, especially as someone who lives and breathes the gaming industry and the entertainment industry a lot. So it's awesome to see. My question to you is, what are your thoughts on the balance in Valorant? I know that people have different issues with different agents for different reasons. I have my own issues with certain agents for different reasons. I mean, overall, I do find the game a lot of fun. I find it a lot of fun. I also understand that I personally am not the best player in the game. I used to be a really competitive gamer, but then I sort of switched my focus, and now I sort of do media stuff. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the balance. Mainly the issue for me is that I just get quite lasered quite easily, and sometimes I'm like, how the hell did you get that flick headshot? Like, yeah, it's crazy to me. Regardless, though, the only real issue I have with agents, to be quite real with you at the moment, I think is Raze. I don't like, I don't even know how they will ever make the showstopper not OP, and if they do, how are they going to make it? I don't know. Am I the only one? I'm not the only one who thinks, like, my understanding from what the devs have said with Showstopper in particular is that they try and give you time to move out of an obvious position, but realistically, it's an RPG at the end of the day. Like, I don't know. I would love to be told otherwise and hopefully get a different perspective on it, because that would make me dislike it less. But regardless, I would love to hear your take on this. And overall, I'm really excited for what Valorant does with agent balancing. Of course, I am the guy who speaks to you on Valorant Hub, so anything coming up on Valorant, of course, I do cover everything going on. In fact, I will be covering this exact video on Valorant Hub after I either after I edit this video or something like that, but I'll be covering it very, very soon. And I'll also be covering a few other things like, well, I guess you can find out on Valorant Hub. But with that being said, this is Zaki. Some of you will have probably heard my voice for a little while, but don't know who I am. Here it is. I do cover everything or anything I'm interested in, basically, because I'm not only on Valorant. Valorant Hub is one of my channels. I work on a lot of stuff online and gaming and stuff. So that might also be, some of you have sort of said to me, you seem to understand Valorant, but not to the extent that players do. And I do play the game quite frequently, but not every day, all day. I spend my time on a lot of games. So anyway, that being said, if you want to see more of anything that I'm covering, you kind of are hopefully getting an idea of who I am and what I do. If you look through the channel, I've only posted maybe 6 or 7, maybe even 5 videos at this point, I'm not sure. But I'm very much excited and keen to keep working on this channel on other things. But it's not just going to be Valorant, it's going to be Fortnite, it's going to be Call of Duty, it's going to be anything that I find some level of interest in that I will be covering. So if you want to be up to date with everything happening around that, around me and what I'm interested in, the gaming industry and stuff like that, then hit that subscribe button, keep notifications on. But this is not Valorant Hub, so I will not be keeping you up to date on everything happening every single day, multiple times a day on Valorant, because that's for Valorant Hub. But anyway, have a great day, everyone. I'll see you in the next video.
I'm not gonna shopping.